So this is what I have in mind, what I want to do with you guys. I want to introduce myself so you know a little bit from which background I'm talking. Then I'm going to talk about digital marketing and where therein I think search marketing is. Then I'm going to talk about search marketing in specific, and then content marketing because it's like so strongly interlinked. And then we have established some frameworks that will help kind of structure our thinking. And then we will try to dive into which startup should do SEO, how, when, and so on and so on. And I hope I kind of want to take you through my thinking process, how I came to the points that I have. So I hope you'll be able to even argue the things that will probably state at the end. Right. So myself, I'm 41 years old. I have 2 kids. Those are the most important things. The rest is just business. I've never had a proper job in my life. I've only always been an entrepreneur. I started my first company in university. I had a portal for casual gaming like a casual gaming website. Then I had an audiobook publishing company. I think you probably want to move to the front. I have some complex slides coming up. I'm not sure if you'll be able to read or follow. So please squeeze in. There's also some free places over here. Yeah, so before my current job, I've been at Rocket Internet, the infamous incubator. I think there has been, when I was like the 25th or something employee there, and the second business or marketing guy there. And within Rocket, I had a special role. I had a kind of an internal agency, but was also steering the in-house team. So overall startups, I was steering around about the work of around about 300 people, and the in-house agency of those 300 was around 50. It was a service, kind of an in-house service agency, so it was always servicing Rocket sisters. Yeah, then I host some conferences, have a podcast, have some books, and so on. The things that you do. So I'm in the industry of search for around about like 18, 19 years, like before there was Google accidentally, but I was so lucky that I was able to stay in the game, even though it changes over time a little bit. So at the moment, this is my main job. This is our team over in Kreuzberg, and we have 170 employees. We're a search and content marketing agency. We're very focused on few topics, but we're a lot of people because we service in a dozen plus European languages. So we developed this approach where we do everything with native speakers from Berlin. So I say a third of our company doesn't speak German, and official languages are kind of a mix of German and English, like it's usual these days in Berlin, I would say. Since 2 or 2.5 years, we're a part of Publicis, which is one of the largest agency networks. It's Paris-based, the nucleus, and our agency used to be called AKM3, and we have been kind of merged into one of their performance marketing brands. It's called Performics. So that's kind of the explanation of what we do, and that organization is huge. It's like 2,500 people, so we're like a 5% of the whole thing. And then I have like a side pet project. I have a cigar shop. It's the second largest cigar online retailer. And once we don't tape anymore, I can share some thoughts on that. It's a lot of fun. It sits over in Schöneberg. I don't have much of a clue about cigars, but I can sell them. That's the kind of the important part to say about it. And then the rest I'll do off camera. Yeah, you'll see my slides are a little bit special. So you will have to deal with it or get out. All right. So we'll jump into it. When we start into digital marketing, I think the first is a kind of area of disappointments that I see happening when people start playing around with proper digital marketing, like on a professional level, not just doing something and trying and blah, 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 but really, trying to play Champions League in digital marketing. I see a lot of disappointment because there's hope that there can be something that is successful sustainably and cheap and fast, and that just doesn't exist. So I don't know if you know the crazyhot metrics, but I'm just saying that the area of possible just exists usually with 2 of these elements, and the most inner part where the intersection of the 3 does not exist. So whenever somebody says I have a growth hack and it's and just please leave the room or make the person leave the room. So that does not exist. So I'm from the realistic part of things. Not saying that I'm not aggressive and cannot grow companies. I've been at Zalando and was less than 20 people over at Torstrasse, their first office. And I didn't get why people want to sell shoes online because it didn't make sense to me. And I was sent there by the brothers, and we made it grow quite nicely and still work for them. I'm going over there in like 3 hours. So I can make things grow, but it's going to be a mix of 2 things, not of 3 things. So when I think about digital marketing, and this is kind of the German in me, you will see, I'm very structured. I try to like break down everything into buckets. Of course, it simplifies. I would not say it oversimplifies, because you have to bring structure, because there's this ever flux in the area that we all work in. And for me, it's like most of my life. So when I think about all digital marketing topics, the first kind of 2 buckets I put them in is, one is channels for new customers acquisition, and the other part is working with the traffic that you get from elsewhere through these channels once they're on the website. So this is the first, I think, super necessary distinguishing thing that you have to make. So this is like 2 different parts of the thing. So we're diving into one of the digital acquisition channels at the moment. This is our focus for the 45 minutes. Hopes up high. So I wanted to show you how I think, how to structure thinking about the topics. You don't have to agree with me on everything that I do, but I think using the structure that I propose, I think that's going to be really helpful. So first of all, when I think about the established digital marketing channels, the first way I can distinguish them is, how broadly applicable are they? And there are some, like price comparison engines. They're a huge topic when it comes to e-commerce, but for other businesses, they're not a topic at all. And the interesting part about the 2 search channels that are happening is that they're, from all the channels, they're the most broadly applicable. That's what I really like about them. There's some business models who can only do SEO. So this is what I really like about this topic. Obviously, I'm slightly biased because I represent that channel mostly. So you don't take my word, but use this structure for thinking when you think about the topic and you come up with your own solutions. What are you obviously missing here? You're missing like every hot topic that exists in digital marketing. I'm not saying native advertising is in here. I'm not saying growth hacking. I'm not saying influencer marketing. For me, I think, because I've been in the game for a while, I always think that things have to stand the test of time. And I would say at least half of the things disappear over time. So I'm glad if these things stick, and I think I have a good guts feeling where I would sort them in, but I will only do this sorting work once I know they're really going to stay, because otherwise they're just like another trend, another phase, something, that has been there to sell stuff. But I think, using, first of all, to distinguish what is applicably how broad, that's, I think, something that you can work with. And then also to understand that your business model, if you're using some of the customer acquisition channels that are here, you're in very unique positions. So the second kind of tool I would like to suggest for you guys is to understand that the different channels that exist, they differ in divergence loss, and we'll talk about what it is, and where the risk of the advertising takes place. So divergence loss is very simple. Who still watches linear TV? I don't, but I'm just raising my hand so you can raise your hands. Okay, it's okay. Okay, but let's say you watch YouTube, right? Okay, or you're lazy raising hands, right? Ha ha, that's very meta. But whenever you see an ad, like I would say at least half of the times it's totally irrelevant for me, right? And then from the relevant ads, that I could be a customer for, even less I'll take interest in, and even less I'll buy in. So most of the ads, especially in traditional media, they reach people who they're not relevant for. And this is the kind of the divergence loss. It's a loss of effectiveness, right? So if I have a marketing blog and you're advertising a marketing software, then that's quite a little divergence loss. But if I'm putting like a TV ad up, it reaches a lot of people. That's kind of the good thing about it. But obviously, many of the people that say I'm advertising for a Ferrari on TV, most of the people I'm advertising this car to, they will never be able to afford it or buy it. So there is a divergence loss. And then the other part is, where's the risk in the payment method that advertising is paid for? Traditional media comes from here. CPM is cost per mil. So you usually pay per 1,000 banners or ads seen. So the risk is on the advertiser side. The advertiser is taking the risk. But if you look at CPC, that most of the digital media where most of digital media is happening, so AdWords, Facebook ads, and so on, it's mostly click-based. You see that there's like a shared risk. Yeah. So if somebody's already clicking on my ad, it means I've already kind of pinpointed a person that might be interested in what I'm selling. So already a part of the risk is taken away from me as an advertiser. And then there's, you know, stuff like affiliate marketing, where all the risk that exists is kind of on the side of the advertising space, because the advertiser is only paying if they're earning. So it is important to kind of, whatever you're doing, to kind of be able to sort it in here. So what's missing here? It's very obvious. What's missing here? Or why are some channels missing? So all these channels that are here, they have variable costs. They're paid channels, right? SEO is not a classical paid channel, and we'll discuss it a little bit later. But you see, like paid search is in here. If you're not familiar with acronyms, I'll go into them a little bit deeper later on. But you see that divergence loss in search in general is really, really low, because if somebody's kind of, I don't know, searching for red shoes and I'm selling red shoes, it's really, really easy to work for them. But if I'm selling something that they're not searching for, it's very hard to target them. And we'll go a little bit deeper into that too. So if you studied marketing at university, I think you'll get all the slides as a PDF after the session. If not, step on loose foot. So then you've probably remember something like the AIDA funnel. So it's not the touristic boats. It's a marketing. It's a sales funnel. There are newer version of it, like the Google version and the whatnot version of it. But the idea is always the same, right? I reach some people. A few of those are interested. A few will consider buying, and a few will actually buy. So I'm kind of working down the funnel, always losing some and winning some while I'm going through there. But this is where I earn money, and of course, then I can have like recurring payments or customers that stay and so on and so on. But this is not the basic thought that I want to share. The idea is, when I'm working on my communicating with customers and potential customers at different stages of this funnel, I'm doing two very different things depending on where I'm working at. If I'm in a lower funnel, is where I'm working at. Somebody's, typing buy Cohiba cigars, which is my cigar shop, would be a great result for. And somebody's typing that, it's very lower funnel. They already know what they're doing, and I'm just trying to say, hi, here, please, me, yeah? So I'm fulfilling a demand, right? This is what I'm doing when I'm working on a lower funnel, communication tool. And when I'm working upper funnel, let's say TV advertising, I'm trying to create a demand, yeah? Or classical banner advertising, it's right here. So, and this is another thing that's really important, and where you also see why I love SEO so much is, most of the channels, they have their strength somewhere along the path. And what I found fascinating in SEO, you can work the whole damn thing. So I'll show a few more examples a little later on. So these are just some general slides, so you can see where in digital marketing I see search marketing. And now we're kind of drilling a little bit deeper, going only into search marketing to help you show how I think, you can think about it. Okay, so obviously, there's two channels there, and they differ a lot, but they have a lot in common. So I'm only talking about SEO here today. So the stuff where when you click, there is no money involved. You get the traffic for free. For free is obviously not true, and I have to do the hyphens all the time, because obviously you've done something to get there. So it's not really, really free. And this is the area that Google earns 99% of their money from. It's pay per click. You pay when somebody clicks, and it's auction mechanism. So who pays more gets more. So it is relatively expensive. Nonetheless, it's a great tool. So first, let's have a look at the two channels together. And the way I've learned marketing in university, it was nothing like searches, because the stuff that's taught in university, it's all about push marketing. It's always about generating demand. I'm the big brand. I send my message out there, and then eventually through a big black box, people come to me. And I'm like, yes, I earn money. But pull is nothing like that. The people that use a search box, and can be Google, it can be YouTube, can be any app store, anything. When there's a search query there, most of the things that are searched for, they have a need that they are articulating. They already have a specific need. Sometimes they already know what they have the need for. So if I could go to the App Store and type in WhatsApp because I'm a super late adopter or something, nothing you can do there. I already know what I want. But many people go to Google and just say, okay, I need a new pair of sneakers. What are sneaker trends in Berlin for 2017? I don't know. I have a need either for something to read, an information, or something to do. And I want to fulfill this need. So there's a strong pull. And anything that I have ever learned in classical marketing theory books does not work with pull marketing. And this is the biggest misunderstanding. I think once big advertisers have understood this way of, how different this way of communicating is, we're going to see a lot more and stronger investment into anything that is search and content. And I think this is also where a lot of startups were able to, become strong. Because, why do so many car portals exist when, some of the biggest advertisers are the big car brands? Many times the startups are monetizing on the big brands' impossibility or inability to really be present there where they were expected. So this is a big, still gap that exists. And when you look at the two search channels, and this is kind of the last comparison part, they are a lot different when you think about them. If you think about PPC, the best analogy I can give you to kind of remember is you're renting a flat. You start paying 1 month, you can move in right now, you can live right there. And SEO is much like building a house. I've probably like 2 years of pain, and I live there then for a lot cheaper than before. And over time, this pays off more than this. But it's different, right? I can't compare it. And usually in most professional, advertising setups, both things are done. You just have to understand what the role is of the thing and when to do what and for what purpose. Okay, so now we're forgetting the paid part and diving into the non-paid or the organic search part. The ugly thing about it is on the one thing you can do stuff, and we'll dive in on the things that you can do. But the problem is that is not all that determines the success of what you do. For example, just last week, Google is changing something that they're doing for the flight market. If you're selling flights, suddenly, you've been doing a great job, but Google is changing. And the same thing is with the competitors. So the success in SEO, as ugly as it is, and I'll tell you later on why, I'll tell you a lot of ugly things about SEO, and I can also tell you a little bit later what the reasons are why this, taking on all this pain still makes sense. So here again, it's very vague what you have to do, which is already ugly. And then there's even the search engine that is obviously not going to tell you, like, this is my roadmap for the next 5 years, so you can adapt to it. And then obviously there's the competitors, and because it's super competitive. Because the ugly thing about SEO is it's not Olympia. In the Olympic Games, there's always this saying that, just being there is already winning, just being a part of it is already the big thing. But the ugly thing in search is only on top you get traffic. If you're, place 12, it's not worth the effort. Every investment that you've done is a mistake, actually, because it didn't take you up to the front. So it's very, very competitive. So competitors are a big, big topic, especially in search. Okay. So when you look at search, it's super ugly. As I said, you don't know the algorithm. Another ugly thing about it is when you are in competitive areas, sometimes you have to flexibly interpret the rules that Google says for their search engine. It's not transparent and it's not really clear how to get efficiency. And it's very complex when it comes to long tail topics. And sometimes the biggest and ugliest thing about it is very integrative. You need in large, in mid-sized and large companies, everything is specialized, and suddenly you need tech people, you need UX people, you need, tech people, you need marketing people. Everybody has to kind of help to get this thing rolling. So it's not like a fun channel that's easy to use, or one person can just, click, 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 credit card, and go. It's not like that. Everybody has to play along. So why take on all this pain? There's just 2 or 2.5 reasons. First of all, it's the cheapest of all marketing acquisition channels. Over time, this channel is able to be the channel that is going to get you customers on the lowest customer acquisition cost. This is the kind of the good thing about it. And the second thing about it is something very unique. It is the most sustainable channel. So once you've gotten top positions, it's very easy to get something self-propelling, like a self-fulfilling prophecy in there. I've been a great result, I will be a great result, kind of thing. And that's also very unique, because for all the other channels, you know, once you pull your credit card from Facebook, from Google, from whatever you're advertising on, you know, your favorite native advertising, whatever it is, once you pull your credit card data, you know, the traffic stops flowing immediately, and SEO can still deliver traffic over time. I'll jump one slide, you'll have it later on. So when I think about SEO, this is the structure in my brain that I think about it. I have on-page and off-page. On-page is whatever is on my website. It's kind of the, you know, we won't get in trouble right here. Off-page is anything that's away from my own website. So when I think about on-page, I think there's 3 different topics. Strategic topics, technical topics, content topics. And off-page, it's mostly links, and it might be traffic as well. According to this chart, I've even built our organization, many organizations sometimes split tasks, so it's sometimes hard to hire an SEO person. Sometimes we split tasks. This is done by one person, this is done by one person, this is done by one person, this is done by one person. All together, you can get the charts later on as PDF, I'm just saying. This chart can be really, really helpful. If it's like the one chart that you want to remember from the presentation, it should be this one. So this is the way I structure everything that exists in SEO, and it's not like this chart changed over the last 15 years. It's always been the same thing. Since there's Google, there's this part being added, but even before that, this has been true. So it's not something, you know, everybody says there's always, you know, everything is changing, but actually some things are never changing, and this is one of them. And we'll come back to that a little later. So when I think about the perfect person working in digital marketing, it's like this T-shaped person. They should understand the other channels. They should understand what happens with the traffic once people are on the website, but their focus should be what's happening in their area. And again, if I think about these 4 areas, the way I have to take care about them in an ROI optimal setup, of course, you know, reality is never the optimal, but if I was able to kind of aim for the optimal, first I usually have to set up the strategy, then I have to set up the tech stuff, then, you know, investing in content pays off, and then last kind of the last element that I'm adding is the off-page part. So just some thoughts on the way people search. So there's 3. One of the way to distinguish people's search, and obviously, you know, people who think about these topics all day, they come up with, you know, several ways to cluster things, but this is one really useful one, I think. When you look at searches, there's like 3, one of the best way to distinguish it is these 3 different kinds of searches, and each kind of one of them is around 1/3 of all searches. So the easiest one to understand is this one. 1/3 of all searches, they're navigational. People already know where they want to go. They just, you know, don't know how to type in a URL, cannot remember the brand name properly, or probably want to go to a deep link. You know, even I do it. You know, of course I can make fun of the 200,000 or 300,000 people every month that search for www.bild.de, which is kind of Germany's biggest tabloid paper. But it's like 300,000 of them. They Google this. It's not like they type it into the browser bar. They Google it, right? I can make fun of those, but the reality is, and if you observe yourself, you also do that. So if I want to go to Google's keyword tool, I type in Google keyword tool because I cannot remember the URL, but I know exactly where I'm going. So this here is a lot different than the rest, because here, from an advertiser and brand perspective or startup perspective, this is a defense situation. So I need to make sure that people who are looking for me can find me and nobody's kind of getting in. But this is actually the easiest part. This is real SEO, because here people are not specific where they want to fulfill the need. They have a need either for information or to do something, but and they're articulating this need by typing it into, you know, their preferred search engine, but they're not saying where I want it fulfilled. I want to read something about, you know, whatever. I want to do online dating, then I type it in, and you know, there are like 10 different, you know, brands that will try to win me as a customer at that moment. So here I'm really fighting for new customers. So this is the interesting part of SEO. Then I want to touch content marketing, because if you would think SEO, just as far as we've been kind of down the logical tree until up here, many startups wouldn't have the opportunity to dive into this topic much further, because for a very simple reason. Sometimes, or many times in startup setups, the services or products offered, they're so innovative that nobody's actually looking for them. So you would have to stop right there, right? So if you know, my favorite example is Glossybox. Never, do you know this product? Or should I explain? I'll probably explain it for the people who are watching it via video. So it's like a monthly thing. You get a box every week. It's there for male and female, and probably all kinds of different setups. And you basically get like some small version of perfumes that you can try, and then the perfume producers, they hope you're probably gonna buy one of those. And it's not. It's a great value for money, I think, and it works quite okay. But nobody's searching for that. So in a case like that, you would say, okay, search doesn't work for that because obviously the startup person would say, well, let's rank for all perfume names. But that's like a moronic idea because they cannot. If I'm searching for a certain perfume name, and then you propose me, well, buy this box. You're totally far off my intent. Obviously, everybody wants to rank for the perfumes, but the person searching for a certain perfume will not buy that box. They have a specific need. They're articulating this very specific need, and when they want this need, fulfilled, and not something totally different offered. And via search, it wouldn't work. So this is why we need content marketing because I think if I explain it the way I see it, I think it shows where opportunities for startups are that have innovative products, right? So what is content marketing for me? The traditional model is some people have content, they have advertising space, they're selling as advertising space for advertising money to the advertiser. That's like simple as that, straightforward, right? So what I find interesting is that the content and the commerce are coming together. So the brand that actually wants to sell, it can be the publisher. If I'm really trying to push things as simple as I can. So if I use the same chart I used earlier and try to put in content marketing in there, it's something that is a lot more upper funnel, but still has a lot of pull logic to it. So you can already start the different things that we've talked about coming together here. So search advertising is obviously lower funnel. If I'm paying for it, I will only pay for the lowest funnel stuff. If I'm not paying for it as much, I can go much up higher the funnel. But content marketing comes from the other end. So it's much more like brand advertising, but pull. So this is what the interesting thing is about it. And it has a lot of impact on all the areas that we've talked about. And I'll give just a very good example of, just a very simple example of what I'm talking about. So everybody knows Aspirin, and the company that produces Aspirin, they have a microsite, which is Erkältung online, which just means a cold. And online is easy to translate. And this microsite, it's as ugly as fuck. So it doesn't have to be like super fancy and great and high tech, Super stupid, simple things can work. I'm not saying that it wouldn't work better if it wasn't nicer. I'm not saying that I don't like ugly, but I'm just saying ugly can even work because the concept is more important than what it looks like. If it looks great, but the concept is shit, it won't work. Ugly but great concept can work. So in this case, you see how many terms this website is ranking for, and they're getting a lot of traffic. And obviously, they're not advertising straightforward here. They're trying to be helpful on any topics around the cold. And obviously, they can say, well, Aspirin can be one of these solutions, and it's free, right? So they're creating their own advertising space, and this is super interesting about it. So the traffic that you get via content marketing is a lot more than what you just get from the search engines. There's a lot more effects that can work. I just want to touch one topic around it. So when I think about content marketing, the biggest areas are kind of producing the content. When it comes to biggest areas, not most important, but the ones that eat up the most money and time. So one is producing the content, and the second is kind of making sure the content gets reach. And these are not optimal. If I look at unsuccessful content marketing efforts and campaigns, the biggest mistake comes from right here. They're underfunding this and overfunding this. So I'm kind of pledging that you need to invest equally in both. And if we think about the content and this also the overlap to search engine optimization, it's in the types of content that can be produced. So I'll show an example from my cigar shop, so you don't think I'm like all theory all the time. I can kind of give examples for everything, but they just gave me 45 minutes, so I need to sum it up a little bit. So if I'm a cigar shop, I need to have content on the products that I'm selling, obviously, right? I have to have content on a certain cigar, otherwise I cannot sell it because nobody will buy without a picture, without a description, da-da-da-da-da. So this is transactional content. This is what I do transactional SEO with. But I can have, if I'm a cigar shop, I can have the best, explanation of how to cut a cigar, how to store a cigar, how to smoke a cigar, how to choose a cigar for beginners, what are great cigar presents, what are the most expensive cigars, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I can have all kinds of information content. And when people are searching for these topics, first of all, I can see that people are searching for this topic, so I can create great content for it. Are they in the mood to buy when they are searching how to cut a cigar? Are they going to buy? Definitely not, because most probably they're sitting in front of their computers with a thing that they got for a present from somewhere, and they're now trying to figure out how to do it right, not to mess the good cigar up, right? So they will not buy a cigar online, right? But I can get the traffic for free, and this is a lot less competitive than this. So what's interesting here, I can establish a relationship. I can be helpful. It's upper funnel, and if I have a good, explanation, tutorial, on things, I can use this to reach out to influencers, however I intend to seed this thing, and this is easy to seed. If I'm just, getting out there with my sales page, nobody will want to listen or hear about it. But if I'm helping with something, that really fulfills an information need, I can get people to react. And obviously, sometimes there's content that is only there to entertain and interact, and not so much for a search purpose. So just to show you, how I think the cigar shop is very important, just to showcase that you don't need like a gazillion millions of funding to be able to make concepts, high-level concepts work perfectly, but it works with very limited budgets. So this is, content that we have for, a category or a single cigar. Obviously, that's necessary for SEO. Obviously, that's necessary to sell. But we have a whole set of content, like how to cut a cigar, and this ranks number 1, how to cut a cigar, and this delivers, as much traffic as many of the categories. And obviously, this is upper funnel, but this is also something that people perceive as helpful. They'll share this, and so on and so on. So this, has a lot more complex way of functioning. And then there's content that only entertains. What are the right cigars for Halloween, because some of them have scary names. Whatever the cigar makers like, and then we, like what alcohol goes with which kind of cigar from, Dominican Republic, and so on. So the interesting part is right here where it kind of overlaps, because this works for search engine optimization and content marketing, and this is the important part. And this is just something for you for kind of later to look at. If I look at how to kind of get reach for the content if you create it from a content marketing perspective, these are kind of the 6 tools I think you need to think of, and invest in getting reach for the content that you created at least as much as in the creation of the content. Okay, now we'll try to wrap everything up together. For me, there's just, in the prototypical logic, there's just 3 kinds of different business models on the internet, at least in the last, nearly 2 years I've been in it. There's reach-oriented things. They obviously earn on the advertising money. There's transaction-oriented, your favorite shoe shop or my cigar shop or whatever you're doing, and there's subscription models. So I think the questions that you have in your mind, I hope most of them are here. So first of all, what kind of business model is it? And if it's a reach-oriented business model, usually off-page and content is not a topic for them. They're already there. Any newspaper or publishing a platform that is pushed, it has content en masse. Usually, great content gets good links. So usually, they have their lack of strength in search. They have on the technical and on the strategy side of things, because in news you have an article that is important today or this morning, but probably in the afternoon it's already not important anymore. And how to accumulate these kind of things to create things that will always deliver traffic, because ideally in search you want to create content or a URL that will continuously deliver traffic and not just deliver a peak and then just move away. You want to have stuff that kind of piles up. So you have one URL, it delivers traffic, second URL delivers traffic, so it pumps up over time. Then the second part is kind of what growth trajectory are you aiming for? You know, if you have these weird wet dreams about, you know, exponential growth, that's great. But it cannot come from SEO. That's not the way this channel works. It's usually something that grows linearly. I've never seen anything else. So you have to understand the role of it. It's something that makes the ROI nice in the end, because it can lower your average customer acquisition cost, because it just delivers a chunk of your customers at the lowest customer acquisition cost that you have. But it's usually, for many business models, not the one thing that decides how it's going to be. Also, like if you're in a transaction or subscription model, it's very clear that, you know, content and off-page activity is going to be an issue for you. It's been like that in all the models I've seen so far. So you have to figure out how you're going to solve this. You know, will you have an internal editorial team, or, you know, who will create the content, how it's going to be disseminated? How are you going to make sure that you create content that's going to, you know, deliver the results that you're aiming for? How definitive is the business model we're working on? Whenever I'm in touch with, you know, really early stage startups, they have, you know, one thought, and to me it's clear they're going to pivot later on, but to them it's not yet. So sometimes it's very hard. I've just talked to one in the HR, SAS, B2B space, and they're doing like 3 things, 4 things. They're probably, you know, it's going to be 1 or 2 of them, but it's hard to find a strategy. If like it's really early on, you know, it's going to pivot like another 2 or 3 times. Then usually it's a case for don't do search yet. Do other stuff, try other stuff, but not that yet, because search as a channel, or search engine optimization as a channel, it takes a lot of time. It usually takes, you know, to work properly, as we've talked before, it's like building a house. It's not, you know, renting an office somewhere. So if you need to kind of rent an office, you need instant results, you usually go for a paid channel. But if you want to make sure that over time you're going to pay less for living, then you need to start building a house. But then you already need to know where you want to live in 3 years from now. So you already have to have like a long-term idea that this is pretty much going to be the stuff that I'll be selling to people, because I'll only be able to rank for stuff where I'm really able to fulfill the need of the customers that are searching for this, you know, term, whether it's, you know, an information, product, a service, or whatever. So again, a similar idea is, what's the status of the company? Is the company still trying to prove that it should exist? Because this is something that startups, you know, need to do in the beginning. Obviously, the founder and eventually it's, you know, the people who give it the first money, they think this company or this product or this service should exist, but that's not proven in the market. So, you know, are you proving that you need to exist? Then probably SEO is not the first thing you should touch, because it usually takes too long for it to pay off. So I would rather, you know, switch to other channels. But if you're kind of switching, you know, when you look at the life phases that exist in a startup, if you're looking more towards, okay, we're going to show how we're going to monetize, how our average customer acquisition cost is going to go down, how the customer value is going to go up over time, then this is the element that you can work with. And then there's another part to it. If you think that, I don't know, you think that influencer marketing is going to be huge for you, and then you have strong synergies between SEO and some other marketing activities that you're doing, and then you eventually still pull it forward in the timeline, because it makes sense from a synergy perspective, but not from a standalone perspective. So one has to look at the kind of the different thing that can exist here. Yeah, and then the time pressure thing, I already addressed that. So it just takes some time to pay off, just as it needs time to build a house. So really to understand what to do right is, or how to do it, you have to find the right time when to do it. Then you have to have matching budget and expectations, because you do a little and you get a lot. That does exist in your wet, you know, founder dreams, but it doesn't exist so much in reality. And then obviously you have to do it the right way. So I have some 4 concluding charts. First of all, if you compare like any like influencer marketing, content marketing topics to what people are looking for, they're down here. This is search. The one on top is SEO and search engine optimization. So no matter how complicated I'm making this, it is a huge topic. But you know, in a startup setup, you just have to understand, you know, its role, and then you can, I think, find the right way to address it. And then the fun fact is that SEO comes from a background where we used to do a lot more than Google optimization. I at least started like that. And these days, you know, as a publisher, it's become a lot more colorful, the different things where you push out your content, and each of them has an organic logic to it. My favorite toy at the moment is playing around with LinkedIn. I push a piece of content there, I get 10,000 views for nothing, for just posting a picture. But I'm experimenting with, so each of them has an organic element to it. And if you're kind of in a pull mode, in a search engine optimization mode in your brain, and you understood the logic how things can work, then any of these channels is a toy. So I think that the future of SEO is again broader than just, you know, regular Google optimization. These is things that we do these days, and I think it's going to be a lot broader in the future. So it depends on what you're doing. You know, if you're doing something that is image heavy, I don't know, you're creating your own brand of yoga wear or whatever, you know, maybe anything that is picture driven or marketplaces are going to be the main things that you drive. It's probably not going to be Google SEO, and it's totally fine, but it's always SEO. So last remark is that there is some push marketing you can do, and there's some pull marketing you can do. But the best, you know, setup for me is kind of trying to find a way to combine the two. Obviously, I represent more the pull part than the push part, but the most efficient setups where people have really changed the most in their markets is the setups where they found a bridge. So this is my Twitter accounts, books, conferences, da-da-da. Thank you.
I just would like to ask, in the case of a startup in Berlin, and there are many like that who are small, they don't have a large media budget, as you said in the beginning, but some of them, they create new products. Let's say accessories or for bikes or this kind of stuff. And I have an example in my mind. There is no actual word to speak about that, to describe this product. And I do PPC, this is my job. And for me, search in general, SEO or SEA, is really difficult in this case because people are not looking for this specific, there is no word. Or there is another problem sometimes when there is a word. For example, I have a client who is doing some kind of really high quality trash bin. Okay, so they cost more than 1,000 euros. But when people look for this keyword, they don't look for this price range. What would you say about that? Would you say that search is not the channel they should invest money on, or this is what I think? And I think, for example, you should rather do some Facebook or where they can actually show the product and the picture.
I totally agree. Search is not the element. If people are not looking for it, there's no use in going at. Sometimes you can test whether you're able to sell to people who are not actually buying. So I would always test PPC. So PPC is the first go-to place to test stuff for me, like AdWords. But for me, it would definitely not be, you know, my primary way. I would try to do something like influencer marketing. Try, you know, if it's a luxury trash bin, try to go into publications. You know, do like online PR. Try to communicate with online publications for luxury products or for interior design and have them talk about my product. So I would do like something like that. There's more like, you know, more like an online PR-ish, influencer marketing-ish attempt. And the second was, sorry. A bike accessories. Yeah. Okay, well then it's biking publications again. But I would you need to again, if you think about where things can be, you know, you have to create demand, and you at the PPC channel, you know, you're in AdWords is right here. It's like nobody's looking for the damn thing, so you need to create demand. So you have to think about what channels are able to create demand. So the you know, if I'm you know, reaching out to bloggers doing influencer marketing, it's probably somewhere here. If I'm, you know, going to publications doing online PR, it's also probably about here. Facebook, I can do also sometimes things that are right here. So I can, you know, target an ambitious, you know, biking group or like a biking hobby, and then I can try to identify which are the more ambitious ones or the ones, you know, in race bikes, and I have accessories for race bikes, so I can try to create the demand there. But I have to work both your cases. I have to work upper funnel, and AdWords for me is, you know, as lowest funnel as it can be. So I agree.
So you are being here in the field for a while, and things are changing. So how you met those challenges, and how are you meeting these challenges? So platforms are changing, technologies are changing. So how to get along with those things?
So I think if you, I kind of agree and disagree at the same time. So on the one thing, yes, things are changing, but I think that the way, if you are able to, and the good thing is, the funny thing is, I know I have friends who've been like SEO rock stars for 2 years and never before and never after. So the kind of the other model exists as well. And they've earned enough money in that time, so it's okay for them to not, you know, figure out things anymore. And at the same time, these days, there's like some people who rock Amazon SEO and they make a living out of it, and others who don't. So I think, you know, to stay on the game, I think it's necessary to always boil it down to the kind of, you know, distill the essential out of it. And if you find the essentials, they're going to be the same. This here, same for App Store optimization, same for Amazon SEO, same for YouTube SEO, same 15 years ago in any search engine, same, you know, probably in 5 years for, you know, anything speech oriented, it's going to be the same logic. It's just going to be, you know, in Amazon, Offpage's ratings. So you just have to find a translation. But if you're able to distill the essence usually stays the same. And then you just have to be flexible and always give up old models that you've been used for thinking and try to come up with something better. So this is, I mean, you know, for somebody representing SEO, never doing anything else but SEO, I'm not really pushing you towards SEO, am I? Because, you know, they asked me to speak from a startup perspective. And the funny thing is, and the good thing is, you know, back in the days when I was at Rocket, which is a long time ago, it's more than 5 years ago I've left Rocket, so it's very, very old days. But what was great then is that, you know, the C-level people, the founders, they don't know SEO, they don't know my stuff. They cannot decide what they should do and what they shouldn't do. You know, even the CMO, how the hell? You know, usually it's not like an SEO professional as a CMO. They don't know. So I could decide what's right and what's not. So this is, you know, if you can find a setup for somebody to honestly tell you what to do and how much, that's going to be the biggest help that you can ever get. And then just try to stick to it, even if you don't fully understand it. But I was trying to kind of give you the hints how you know, how, like, to make up your own decision tree, whether it makes sense or not. If you know that your startup right now, what it's doing, that people are looking for it, so it's lower funnel, that's the best way to start. So I'm not saying you cannot work upper funnel, but, you know, to get the bang for the buck, you start lower funnel. If not, you know, find something else that's probably better, as similar as in the case before. So, you know, understand, are you creating demand? Are you fulfilling demand? If you're creating demand, you have to start somewhere else. It can be content, but it's then you have to understand how should the dissemination take place. You have the seeding chart in my slides. You can have a look at that, and probably that's going to be helpful. So really to know when to start, how to start, that should be kind of the key thing to it.
Yeah, it seems like there's really like until you don't have product market fit, it's not something you want to invest in. And I think also content marketing, that's something we really push our startups to do, because for a lot of different reasons, but just creating content as much as possible. And did you say it was like 50 distribution, 50% production? Like we tend to say even less.
I can jump to the chart, because so what I'm if I said that. But the thing is, obviously, first of all, have to find a proper strategy and setup, you know. But the biggest part of the money goes in here, like 80% goes into here, and those 80% I would split 40-40. And if I'm going to overinvest in one of the two, it's going to be this one. Because if I have a great piece of content and nobody reads it, it's the worst experience ever. It's going to lead me to bad decisions. I'd rather have like one piece of content and then, you know, invest fivefold into, you know, dissemination of the content to the right way and put my efforts there, rather than the other way around, because that's going to lead me to this doesn't work for me, which is just a mistake in the concept. I think
that's a mistake a lot of entrepreneurs do. They spend way too much time on the production and then just find people to write your copies, and 80% on production is what I usually do tell them. On distribution, I mean.
How do you consider analytics in this? Because you speak about reporting, okay, it's fine, but for most of the cases I've seen, there is a huge analytics issue. Like, people don't know where they spend the money, where they're actually making money, and what is the CPA, what is it's really like they spend a lot of time producing the content, they do a lot of things, but they actually don't know how to read the data.
So if that's a problem, that's not an SEO problem. It's a problem for all channels, not just one, right? So that's my first thought of it. So I will not mix up the stuff. So if you look at growth hacking topics, they're usually here. They're not a mix. So anything that's like a mix of a gazillion things, it's usually just people not thinking straight, I think. So if they have this problem, it's a huge one. For content marketing, there's another topic. You also see that in the next slide. You see me content marketing putting it here, not here, even though I'm talking about it later on, because the problem is it didn't stand the test of time yet. So for some topics, it's very hard to attribute value to them, especially because the way content marketing works, it's not something that you can calculate as a classic performance marketing channel, because it's more like a push, like a branding thing. And it's not a performance marketing thing. So it's even concept-wise, it's not so easy to show the full value of it. So sometimes, because the concepts that we're using are new or not as established or not as, standardized, established in a standardized way, this is what sometimes makes it hard. But then again, dealing with fuzzy is a core competence that any founder should have. So it's another dealing with fuzzy. But obviously, if analytics is set up wrong or bad, that's not going to make great things. But the moment that whenever I start investing a lot in marketing, this has to work, because this is what makes the success of any marketing efforts work. It's like if we're coming back to the house, if I don't have a proper foundation, I cannot build a great house on it, right? So this is the foundation for me, right? If the foundation is nice, if I have a road leading to my port, and I have a great foundation, then it makes sense to build a great house. But the great house eats up most of the money. But this is that thing that it stands on. So this has to work first. But it's more like a paid marketing topic rather than an SEO topic. Because paid is so much, usually it's like a tenfold of anything that you do in organic.
Yeah, I guess it's for all channels.
Yeah, for all channels, exactly. There was one in the back. I'm not sure if it's still on.
Thanks. I wanted to ask why seeding is important for SEO. If your traffic is going to come from someone clicking on your link on the search page, why do you need to seed your content on someone else's site?
Yeah. So thank you for the question, because this one chart I jumped over, and I can come back to it now. So the seeding part. So first of all, do you understand the off-page element in SEO? So I mean, in the end, off-page, what is it? It's a recommendation. This is what the idea of off-page in the end is. It's about recommendations. Are people recommending you for the topics that you want to be recommended for, ideally, and that they're competent on recommending for? So whatever you're doing, whenever you create through your activities, another recommendation for you starts existing. That's a great thing for you. Whether the recommendation is a link or whether it's traffic being sent to your site or both. That's up to the detail, but a recommendation is what you're aiming for, and in especially in that setup, any content marketing activity that creates recommendations for your site is a great signal for SEO. But again, I think good content marketing can produce things that are of value, but do not monetize through SEO traffic. They come from different angles. Let's think about in a B2B setup where there's like a lot of like lead gen, you generate a lead and then put them into a database and then try to call them. If it's easier to produce a piece of white paper and then make it available on LinkedIn straightforward and generate the lead right there and then call up the leads later on, then that's totally fine for me, and that's content marketing. But it doesn't necessarily work for SEO like that. But it maybe create a brand search that then is a good signal for me for SEO. So it's a complex topic, but it's a good question. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Well, thanks a lot for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andre.
Que la famille.